Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are talking about Colin Cowherd, Caleb Williams, round 4. Do me a favor, pause it, go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about Colin Cowherd and the herd, any of that. You like him, you love him, don't watch him, never heard of him, whatever it is. Go down in the comment section. Drop that comment real quick. I'm going to give you time. All right, so we're going to jump into this. It was a funny line of events because I was in the gym on the treadmill, and actually now I think about it, it's really funny because that's not different than my normal routine. I'll be on the treadmill watching TV. Sometimes I watch ESPN and Pat McAfee a little bit. Other times I'll watch something else. Now, in the past, I have watched Fox Sports 1, but I don't know. Something been weird with the TVs on there. Point is, I was just like, no, I'm determined today to find Fox Sports 1. Because I don't find Pat McAfee show that great on the treadmill. Because it's I have my headphones in, and so I'm usually reading subtitles. So I was just like, I don't really want to do that. So I was determined to find Fox Sports 1. Found it, and once you know, is Colin Cowherd talking about Caleb Williams and kind of what he's heard. And I'm talking about the moment I tapped into it is when this all happened. Because by this time, most of you might have heard that. That would be from the 1st of February. And I had tapped in right when that started, and I was just reading it. And so he's going on about how he's heard from Caleb Williams' camp that they don't want Chicago. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then today, I was on my way to a meeting. And so I turned on ESPN 1000. And again, sometimes I listen to 670. Sometimes I listen to ESPN 1000. Sometimes I listen to music or YouTube, whatever. I say I want to listen to 1000. And that just happened to be the exact time when they were replaying what Colin Cowherd saying. Then they brought him on to kind of follow up. So, just things work out the way they work out. Now, for me, I have to say this. I was completely ready to make this a rant. Like, again, I was on my way to a meeting. So I on the way, commuting, park, walking to the building, all that, I'm listening. Even as we're setting up, I'm listening. And I am fuming. And I'm like, I got to make this a rant. And then I come back home and I pull it back up just to go back and listen to it. And I was like, I'm going to rant. I'm going to rip Colin Cowherd, and I still might. But then I decided, no, that's not the point. I think, especially now that I've seen like Pat McAfee covered it, and it's kind of traveling around. I thought it was kind of a blip on the radar, but it's not. So I was like, okay, there's a story here, bigger story. Whereas I wanted to make it about ranting about Colin Cowherd, because it's not that he says stuff about the Bears. It's his whole everything, his thought process, his reasoning, all that I've never liked, to be honest. I've never been a huge fan. And so I was going to make it about that, but I decided not to. But that is what brings us to this conversation. So we get to this because Colin Cowherd again said that he had heard from Caleb Williams' camp, and he said it was 6 to 8 weeks ago that they were not, they didn't want to go to Chicago, is what he said. I think he's trying to massage that to they had concerns about Chicago, but as you do in national sports media, you tend to try to up the narrative. And so he says, again, that that's what he was hearing. He's close to the USC program. He lives out there in Cali, all that good stuff. And so today he comes on and says that he got a phone call last night from the Caleb Williams camp. Someone in the Caleb Williams camp. Someone. and basically was like, hey, we're not anti-Chicago, we're not anti-Bears. Caleb wants a city that cares. He wants pressure. He wants it to be big. He wants it to be loud. And he really wants a place that is going to push him. And that they believe Chicago is a type of fan base that is like that. They have concerns about certain things, but they also like certain things. So it's not a complete no. And then Sylvie continues to push him on this. And that's when we get into the territory that annoys me. But I'm not going to go super long on this. I'm going to keep it succinct. My thing is, in general, Colin Cowherd he doesn't know football. First of all, let's just get that out the way. He doesn't know football. But also he's almost like Skip, where he's one of the worst perpetrators of sports media today. Skip is one of the worst because of his quote unquote hot takes and complete disregard for any type of facts or consistency. Colin's one of the worst because he is going to do nothing but simplify. All he wants to do is simplify. And it's cool that, I don't know, maybe he has a business background or he knows business people. He seems to talk about business a lot. And so it's cool to have something to use as an analogy to, juxtapose sports to give you a different perspective. But he overdoes it. And he oversells everything, because NFL is a business, I get it. But he oversells football as just like a product, a fast food hamburger coming out of McDonald's. And so the way he talks about things is so oversimplified. So then he gets to this conversation about the Bears and stuff. And it's like, well, okay, I get what you're saying to a certain extent when you want to say that Eberflus isn't safe and we don't have a proven track record. But then the comparisons he makes is not really true. Like the comparisons he makes to the Commanders or other teams, like the issues you point against us as negatives are also the same, reality for these other teams. But no, we're going to skip over that. Like Dan Quinn just got hired. Cool. And you say Dan Quinn has a 4-year contract. Eberflus is on the hot seat. You have no proof of either of that. If Eberflus goes 2-6, he's fired. You have no proof of that. It might be true, but you have no proof of that. You're just saying that. What if Dan Quinn goes 2-6 and he gets fired? We don't know how that owner is in Washington. So it's just like, again, it's just very narrative focused and it's not driven by any facts. So all that really annoys me about Colin Cowherd and other stuff, but I'm going to leave it at that. So the fact is, and I mentioned it in my episode, I believe yesterday, that he floated out this idea, he's not the first, that Caleb Williams might try to force his way out of Chicago because he has that leverage. Thinking that either the city or whatever is not good enough, he doesn't want to go there. And that's the problem when it becomes a he say, she say kind of vague narrative. People will fill in the blanks. That's the human mind. And fans in general, not just Bears fans, are stupid. And so they're going to fill it in with whatever they can. So now you have people like, he's scared of the division. He's scared of a city. He wants warm weather. He wants to be around the stars. He's not tough enough. He doesn't like it. Polls isn't actually good. People are fitting whatever narrative they want to fit into it. And so that's what happens. Then he comes back today and walks that back and tries to clear it up a little bit. So again, yesterday I didn't say that, that was completely true, but I think anybody could look at the situation itself without any information or news from other people and look at it and say, yeah, it's possible that Washington wants to make a big play for the hometown kid to make a splash. It's possible he wants to play for the hometown. It's possible that he thinks the Bears is a dysfunctional organization. And so when you get information like this, it just gives further fuel to the fire for people to think these things. And so I think it's entirely possible for like 50 different reasons, but that doesn't mean I think that is the highest probability. That doesn't mean that that's a lock. I just think it's possible. It's not, it's a very lukewarm discussion for me, but Colin Cowherd has made it a hot button topic for a lot of people. And so now we come to today, walks it back, says the camp thinks Chicago is a passionate fan base, says they got some good pieces, says the defense is good, and also mentions that there's a path to be good really quick, and that's the Houston way. And Colin Cowherd mentions defensive coach, cap space, couple pieces. And again, this is what pisses me off about him. Such a simplifier. Eberflus coming from the defensive coordinator position and D'Amico also has nothing to do with each other. That is the most oversimplification I've ever heard. Having a defense coach does not mean anything. I'm so sick. I wouldn't say it means nothing, but it does not mean anything close to what these people try to make it seem. And then he says a couple pieces, blah, blah. He just throws out a few things, just buzzwords. That's all it is. Vague buzzwords. Pisses me off. Again, not the conversation. So we're going to move past that. So the bigger point is, if you believe Colin either way, because first of all, 6 to 8 weeks is a long time. And within those 6 to 8 weeks, we've gotten into the off season, so things are changing. But if you believe him either way, he heard, I don't even think he said by who, or he said someone in his camp, but we don't know who, that they don't want Chicago. And again, that rumor was already out there, along with the rumors of they're going to try to get a piece of ownership. They're going to try to do all these things. So rumors out there. That kind of is whatever. But then he walks back today and says he got a phone call from someone in the camp last night. And to me, that is more substantial than your previous. I've heard from people in the camp. This is someone literally called me specifically to address what I said last night. Now, he doesn't say who, but that to me, when you make that statement, that means it's a lot more real. So again, if you trust them, then that's not an issue as far as the Bears, potentially being shut out because they don't want to be here. I don't trust him at all. I'm very in the middle, to be honest. I'm less in the middle. In terms of urgency with Caleb Williams and trying to get away from the Bears, I'm at like a 40%. Like, I do think it is very possible that you as Caleb or someone representing you could be like, I would love to go home. The fit just makes so much sense. Let's say to Washington, give your best deal, swing for the fences if you really want me. And to tell Chicago, talk to Washington. I think that is probably where you want to do it at. And so I think that's possible. And I don't knock anybody for that. So that's fine, because we would get a crazy haul. And also we get a shot at Jaden Daniels, which again, I think there's a world where we get him. But also I'm pretty confident there's a world where none of that exists and he's just going to play where he's going to play. Or at least he's okay to play in Chicago. So it's not an urgent conversation for me, but for some people, I know it is. But I think Colin just threw so much sauce on it that now it's going to become a conversation. So, um, yeah, I think that was the major points, man. I mean, Colin made he said a lot of stuff, but honestly, I don't want to cover too much because Colin don't know crap. He just saying stuff. He's just saying stuff that either is not correct or that is such a reach. And so, but I will mention, in case you didn't listen, you should go back and find it. I know they have a YouTube stream, so you could go back. But he mentions that we're the only one in the division with a defensive coach. Again, this narrative that is so surface level he's a part of. You want a young, and he literally talks like this. This is why I stopped listening to him. You want a young, hip offensive coach? Yeah. He's in shape and he's cool and like, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do with football. So he mentions that. He mentions that Eberflus is on the hot seat. They're going to get ready to fire him in the first 3 weeks. That's hyperbole, but that's how he acts. He mentions that Green Bay has the best young talent, which I think is crazy. Look at offseason is one thing, and I still hold that against people, honestly, because if you don't know how to evaluate, shut up. So people will look at Green Bay in last offseason and say it's not good. They said it last year. But then when stuff starts to work or you go against enough bad teams and you put up numbers, all of a sudden, whoa, these guys are great. We didn't know who they were, but obviously they're great. And that's one thing I hate about these sports media people. Stephen A., that's the worst one. Obviously they're great. Obviously. No, it ain't obvious because you didn't even see it come. You have no ability to project. But anyway. So he talks about that. Detroit, he said they're not going nowhere, which you could agree. That's pretty easy. But he just says stuff. So I'm not going to go through all of it. You can listen to yourself. It was annoying to listen to. But when we're talking about the Bears and Caleb Williams, this is a real discussion. I'm not going to sit here and act like a discussion about Caleb not wanting to come to Chicago is ridiculous. I'm not going to act like a discussion about Caleb as a person potentially using his leverage to do something else is not. I'm not going to act like that's ridiculous. I do think that's in the cards, but I don't think it's that big of an urgency, to be honest, because you're going to have you already have a lot of people that's like, well, if he wanted to do that, then he's this. It says this about him. If he was trying to do this, it says this about him. If he thinks this, it says this about him. I get it, except tell Eli that man won Super Bowl, is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. Tell John Elway that went to the Hall of Fame. Like, it is what it is. I mean, especially in 2024, there's technology, there's new money in college. Like, people aren't dumb. Like, as a reporter, in my opinion, I have a lot of respect for the traditional journalistic integrity. Should you be putting private thoughts out there without real confirmation and all that? I don't think so. But you would, as a fan, have to be naive to think they don't talk like this amongst each other, or that the team don't talk amongst themselves like this. Like, man, this team looking real trash. I might have to leave in free agency, or we ain't going nowhere this year. Like, current players coming in, they're not dumb. If we see stuff and can make up a million stories, you think they can't make up 40 million stories? They got way more access than us. So I think it would be silly to say that that's not a conversation, but it's not a 9-alarm fire to me. If, again, it was to turn out where, hey, if possible, let's make this work so I can go to Washington. Cool. To be honest, cool. Fine. I'm not going to go crazy over that. But it's the Bears. It's football. It's fans. It's going to be a wild thing. But tell me what you think. You've been hearing all these things. What do you think? Go to the comment section. Let me know. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.